Are you ready for a rant? So, I actually have a video coming out which will include screenshots, photographs, and video footage. But I can't wait to get this rant off my chest. So, how am I? Just frustrated. I have got it coming from all angles. It's the level of collusion that's going on here is insane. We have over 1,000 people watching. If you're watching this anywhere, give it a share now. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Facebook. Do you know on Facebook currently, if someone puts a picture of me up, they get removed. They're going to make it so Tommy Robinson can't even be spoken about on Facebook. Tommy Robinson, who's committed no crime at all. And they further wanted to endanger my life by pumping lies, saying that I said to behead those who follow the Quran. A complete and utter lie, which just adds more danger to my life. But anyway, so people are aware of the history of what's happened prior to Sunday when a mob of crackheads turned up at my children's home. Prior to Sunday, on Christmas Eve, a group wearing masks took photographs outside the home, not where I live, because I don't live there. I haven't slept in the same building or property as my children for years. That's my business. That's how I live my life, to try and keep them safe. But because of that, certain far left activists decided to find out where my children are. They then took pictures of themselves wearing masks and holding Antifa flags outside that property, not outside my property, outside that property. This campaign of hate and harassment went on for months. My children had to be relocated, as did my wife, for a 2-week period at the request of the police because stolen vehicles had been driven up their road, eyeing up the property. And until the police found out who was in those stolen vehicles, they could only presume the worst. What you'll see is footage, you'll see footage of the police in with my wife, telling her specifically and naming Antifa as an organisation that are arming themselves with weapons intent on causing harm to my family. Now, for any of you to think about that, any journalist out there, any left-wing activist, think about what it must be like for the wife and the children who are completely innocent in this, to be continually told, because it wasn't just once, there was 2 or 3 Osman warnings actually, which you'll see in the video coming up. 3 Osman warnings given, saying that far left activists and Muslims are going to seriously harm them at their home. Now that's gone on for months, with police stationed at the property for months. Now what happened this Sunday? To try and get at me, this is all to try and get at me. This Sunday, a jihadi lawyer who represents Michael Adebolajo, I believe, who represents Shamina Begum and many terrorists, he's actually changed his name. The solicitor has changed his name because his name become that much dirt with all his ties to radical terrorists that he's changed his name. He's also banned from claiming legal aid because he defrauded the finance situation. This is the lawyer that apparently is suing me. Apparently. I say apparently because they've delivered me nothing. They haven't delivered the house I live in one single thing. Now, when I was out of the country, a jihadi lawyer decided to hand documentation which gave an address stated as where I live, where my wife and children are. He handed that over to a group of extremist left-wing activists. Now, try and make this out for yourself. My wife and children and my family have been told multiple times that their lives are in danger from Antifa, who are going to come to their house. They then receive a phone call to say Antifa, far left groups backed by Mike Stutchbury, who regularly tweets in support of Antifa, and Resisting Hate, who again work with an organisation called Tell Mama. Tell Mama share an office with guess who? The Muslim lawyer. I'll put all of this into a documentary coming soon, but I want to get it off my chest. So a radical called Brother Nero, real name Richard Harris, Dick Coughlin, whatever name he wants to give himself, he is handed private and personal documentation, legal documentation, supposedly for me, with an address and names and addresses on it for my children by a lawyer. And he's then sent in a gang of 6 with a pit bull dog or a Staffordshire Bull Terrier to hand deliver this letter to a home that they know I'm not at, where my wife and children are. What do you think, for 1 minute, the reaction would have been by my wife, whilst my children are outside on their bikes, and they get information that Antifa are live streaming and on their way to their house? Now, the police were called, not by me, because I wasn't even in the country, I was on an aeroplane, by my wife, because she was scared, as were my young children. What do you think their reaction was when they find out that men are on their way with cameras to live stream their images, their photos, who they are, where they live, whilst living under a constant death threat, and they're sent by a lawyer and a group calling themselves Resisting Hate? The man who was given the documentation with my family's address on, it took me 10 minutes to go through his previous writings to find him using the word nigger, coon, packy. These are the words and the language this man uses. He's an extremist radical. So this man, a lawyer, sent to my family's home, he's talking about, and he says, broke into his house, skull fucked his wife in the eye socket, put his kids through a meat grinder, and then burnt his house down with them inside whilst violently masturbating. And quite frankly, that's a half-truth. That is what the crackhead that was sent to my family's home. Now, he was sent by Mike Stutchbury. He was sent by Resisting Hate. He was sent by an Islamic lawyer. This was all aimed at doing one thing: causing alarm, distress, and intimidation to my wife and my children. Not to me, because journalists have been to that house many times and they know I don't reside there. So it's not to me. That house is not mine. I don't own it. It's not to me, you cowards. So you chose to go for the weakest and the most vulnerable in my family. And then you make your journalists, you send the Guardian with you. The Guardian were present. The Daily Mail were present. So I spoke to the Guardian today. I'll upload this conversation as well. And I asked the Guardian, because I've got your name, who is at my house, where my children are. And I asked, is it acceptable for me to come to your house, where your children are, with 6 men and a pit bull dog, and live stream it all, and let everyone know where they are? Is that okay? No, it's not, is it? These men came to where my children are. They videoed the name of the road. They told the area and the door number. All as part of intimidation against me. Now, I guess I'm supposed to react. And yeah, last night, I went and knocked at one of the main instigators of this intimidation, Mike Stutchbury's house, on my own, to ask him whether he thinks it's fair and kind to cause this sort of intimidation to young children. I have a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, and an 11-year-old child. That's my children. They're innocent. And you know what? You've terrified them and you've scared them. And they run inside this house and they hid and they cried whilst groups of men were outside. Groups of men, Antifa, who the police have already told them are going to kill them. And not one journalist. In fact, the journalists don't report negatively on this. They actually report positively on this. The Guardian journalist reports a lie, that it's my house. A lie. It takes you 10 minutes to find out whose house it is. It's not my house. It's a lie. This is my in-laws' house that you've targeted, where my wife and children are. And then I knock at one door, and every newspaper runs that story. Every media. Do you know who were waiting this morning? Panorama, John Sweeney. I have the pictures of you, John Sweeney, this morning in Wardown Park with pictures of you, John Sweeney, in Wardown Park with Mike Stutchbury. So was this planned? Was this provocation? Because the man that you sent to my home, the crackhead that you sent to my children's home, that goes against all legal professions. Any lawyer to hand over privileged information of addresses to hate groups, to instigate intimidation, to dox an address. We're not just talking about someone might want to smash my windows. We're talking about planned terrorist attacks to murder and kill me. We're talking about 8 now government warnings that our lives are in danger. That's what we're talking about. And you're all acting like I've terrorised Mike Stutchbury. All the journalists and all the MPs messaging solidarity. Solidarity? What? Because I knocked on his door to talk to him about intimidating my children. Where's the solidarity for my babies? Where's the solidarity for the innocent woman in the home being terrified on a Sunday afternoon by a mob led by a redhead freak who goes around talking about niggers and packies? Where's that? Where is that? Where's the solidarity for them? Your hypocrisy is unbelievable. The way that my family have been allowed to be targeted. Not just targeted, but harassed in their home. And you all act like I'm the wrong one. The MPs all commenting that I'm the wrong one. Every journalist falling over to everyone. Talk about the disgusting tactics of Tommy Robinson. What? Because I knocked on the man's house that sent a gang to my yard with my children in it. When I wasn't even in the country. It's unbelievable. And I'm glad the public can see it, but this will be deleted soon. The whole point in erasing me from everywhere is so I can't even challenge and say what they're doing. As they plan to drag me through court case after court case with bullshit after bullshit to try and financially destroy me. Because they ain't enough that I already have to live under death threat because of all the jihadis you keep allowing to come into our country. And because I dare to criticise the backward paedophilic ideology they follow. That's not enough, is it? You want to target my wife and my children. Do you understand at all the sort of psychological problems that will last a child with? Having to hide in their home. While groups of men are outside attempting to live stream video footage of them to the public, telling them where they live. Yet none of you have reported on it. None of you have reported on it. Not one journalist is reporting on the wrongdoings of what happened this weekend at my children's expense. Oh, yeah, but they just handed a letter over to the police. Yeah, because my family rang the police. Because if the police weren't there, a mob of men would have been at their front door, harassing them and videoing them. So to that mob of men, to Mike Stutchbury, to the Guardian journalist, to the Daily Mail journalist, to every other one in you, including that Muslim lawyer, that played a part in the intimidation and scaring. Do you know, as a father, do you know, as a man, you'd call me a thug. Do you see, if I was a thug, I could kick down Mike Stutchbury's door and beat him to a pulp if I was the thug you say I am. That's what I'd have done if I was a thug. Because you caused upset and misery to my children. And do you know how angry that makes me as a dad? To think that you're not playing the man. You're going for the weakest and vulnerable spots on purpose. So to every one of you, I'm going to put a detailed video out which shows you the police at my family's home. Do you know who my family have a meeting with tomorrow? Counter-terrorism. Do you know how many times counter-terrorism have to meet with my family? Because of the threats against them, which you think's a game. You think you can just live stream and dox and tell everyone where they are. Where my children are fucking hiding. And you're meant to be journalists. Say this out loud. How can the media, the mainstream media, be going to a property with a junkie who regularly racially abuses people on his social media, who talks about burning my house down whilst masturbating? Yet he's accompanied with the mainstream media to harass my children at their home. What sort of bullshit is that? You call yourself journalists. Now, every one of you expect a knock on the door. I'm going to expose every one of you. Who you are, every dirty, historic thing about you. Where you work, everything. I'm going to expose it all. Now I'm sorry if this has gone into an angry rant, but you know how angry I am? And then see that absolute chubby mess, Stutchbury, acting like he's the victim in all this. When I know my children have been terrified, when I know they're crying, when I know that I've had to spend 2 days with them because they're fucking terrified because of you mugs. And to have him there like he's the victim. He hasn't even got any kids. He's a fat failure of a fucking school teacher. School teacher, you got kicked out of school teaching, you muppet. And then you sit there, you try and make a career off the back of me. And you act like you're the victim because I come round to point a few home truths at you. You participated in the intimidation of young children. You scumbag. You gloated about it like it was funny. Ha ha ha, look, he's rang the police. No, a terrified woman and her children rang the police, Mike. If I was at home, I wouldn't have rang any police. And your fucking buddies wouldn't have been leaving. What about Mike's wife? I knocked at Mike's door on the way to the gym this morning, and I knocked to ask him on camera how he thinks it's acceptable to dox someone's address. If it's acceptable, and it's fine for me to go around his address, isn't it? It's fine to me to turn up there every day if I want to, isn't it? If it's acceptable. Now again, any of you mainstream media journalists writing this story know that a junkie, go through his Twitter, well, he's been deleted now for his racism, anti-Semitism. That is who a jihadi lawyer who's in bed with all the terrorists in this country, represents them all. He handed my children's whereabouts to a mob, a hate mob, not one man. Now, the other thing, at that house they went to on the Friday was a recorded delivery letter from the solicitors. There was no need to go to the house on the Sunday to live stream in a mob with a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. That was intimidation.